Hi, welcome to instructionalfitness.com. I'm Joe Tong, and today I'm here with Chris Masters. Let me ask you one thing just to start off with and kind of clear it up. Your last name actually isn't Masters, correct?
No, my last name is actually Mordetsky. The story is basically I went down to Louisville, Ohio Valley Wrestling, which is the developmental territory for WWE. For whatever reason, they didn't like Mordetsky. They never told me why, although there is a Chris Nowinski, formerly. He was a former wrestler before me. And I don't know if they were just trying to, have a different last name or if it's too similar to his. But Dr. Tom Pritchard, who is, he's an old timer. He was one of the, he was the head of talent relations or right under that. And he came up to me one day when I was down there and he said, your last name is Masters. So, when you're a new guy, you don't argue with that.
He said, yes, okay. How do you want me to spell it?
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I went with it, but it wasn't until months later that we actually developed Masterpiece. And one of my friends just had dropped that. We were hanging around one of my friend's apartments out there, and he dropped Masterpiece. And at this point, people were already looking at me as like a body guy,
Right.
So it kind of fit, it worked, and Vince McMahon liked it, and we rocked.
When did you realize that you wanted to be a wrestler?
I think I was about 16 years old, and it really just got to the point where I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with myself, because there wasn't anything I was necessarily excelling at. And then, I just figured I was thinking to myself, and like the only thing I absolutely love is wrestling, and I've always loved it, and it's something I'd like to do. So my first step, I think, along, going on that path was learning about working out and training and developing my body, because all the, when you think of professional wrestling, a lot of people, especially if you grew up in, my era or our era of watching wrestling, you're thinking of like the Hulk Hogan's, all these big, larger than life human beings, it's like they're living, breathing superheroes, and so that was kind of the first step I took at that point. But like you said, it took some work. A lot of people don't realize I was the skinniest fat kid probably around. I had long hair. You remember.
Yep.
A lot of people around Venice remember, which is cool, because they saw me when it was just a
Well, you seen the changes, as you went.
Yeah, so I just started training my ass off.
So with a lot of the sports, you see people that cross over into different sports. And if I was just to come in the gym and look at you and not knowing you from wrestling, I would say you're a bodybuilder. You have the body of a bodybuilder. Have you ever thought about stepping on stage?
It's funny because in the wrestling world, for whatever reason, it's almost looked down upon. Like,
Really?
I'll say this. I don't think a lot of people in the fitness and bodybuilding industry know this, but like one of the biggest obstacles I had to battle was going into wrestling with the perception of a bodybuilding image. I wrote some things under my stats, like saying, former, Mr. Olympia contestant, completely bogus. But that's what you do in wrestling and entertainment is, you
spike it up.
Yeah, you spike it up. No offense to any former Olympia competitors or anything. I know what the real deal is, but just in regard, so when entering that profession though, that's so like the whole bodybuilder turned pro wrestler is just so resented. That I had to defend myself for the longest time, even though I loved bodybuilding as a hobby and I had interest in the sport. I liked to spectate.
Yeah.
But going into wrestling was just so like, oh, he's just a bodybuilder. You don't belong in wrestling.
No talent type of thing.
Yeah. To me though, that wasn't the case. I started bodybuilding with the intent of I wanted to be a wrestler. But I did develop a love for bodybuilding along the way.
Right.
So, I have a love for both of them. And
what's your training like now versus if you're traveling on the road and you have, matches that you're going to, what's your training like then?
Well, the luxury right now is not working on the WWE schedule, which is nonstop. I've actually been able to stop. A year ago, I dislocated my elbow. Just to go back a little bit. So, it was kind of tough coming back from that because it was a severe dislocation. My elbow was all the way up in my tricep.
Did you do that in the match? Or?
Yeah, I was working with Undertaker and Kane, and I was teaming up with Finlay, and we were in England. And that was the last match I worked for Vince or in the WWE. I went over the top, elbow popped out, and I was on a plane back home that night. And basically, once you get 3 months, it's almost like you're starting off kind of from square one again, So you're actually working to get to normal. And then you start training again, and just over the past year, I've had a lot more free time as far as during the week. I mean, you know, because I'll work weekends. Sometimes I'll go international, and that'll be a week or two in Europe. But I have so much more time to come and devote to the gym. Like the routine, like this week, for instance, would start, like the first day would be chest and biceps.
Okay.
The second day would be legs, like, or just quads.
Right.
And then for the most part, I would take a day off and then do like shoulders, triceps, and hamstrings. So I break up like quads and hams. I used to train them together, and I know it's probably a lot of people prefer it, but it's a lot of work.
Well,
I like to separate them. And then from there, the next day after shoulders, triceps, and hamstrings would be back.
Okay. Now, with this, how long does your workout last, probably?
No longer than an hour.
An hour.
Yeah, I'm like kind of get in, get to work, and get out type.
Right, yeah, because I've watched you, you don't talk, talk a lot between sets and everything, so would you think you're resting, what, about a minute and a half between sets, probably?
Yeah, I think about a minute and a half. I mean, sometimes depending on what the movement is, I mean, sometimes I'll look at the clock and I'll wait even 30 seconds, but it just depends on what I'm doing.
Right. If you had somebody came to you now, wanting to get into wrestling, teenager, is there any single piece of advice that you would give them, or do you think it's just a combination of a lot of things, or is there anything in your mind that kind of just sticks there that you would tell a person wanting to get into the sport?
Well, just think it through, and you have to be very mentally strong to last in a professional wrestling atmosphere. It's very very cutthroat. I mean, it's a tough business, but at the same time, it's a great business. So, I mean, if I was going to give them advice as far as pursuing professional wrestling, I would definitely tell them, you gotta wait. You have to wait till you're 18. There are a couple of good wrestling schools around the country and good places to be seen. But make sure you're mentally tough, and make sure you're physically, you're in shape, and you're ready at least to meet the demands in the ring. You don't have to be big, jacked, and ripped to be a pro wrestler.
Right.
I mean, that's one way to stand out, but there are other ways, and that's just through personality. But either way, you got to be able to hold your own in the ring, whether you're big, fat, muscular, small, whatever. They come in all different shapes and sizes. So, we don't have to categorize wrestlers as all big bodybuilder guys.
Right.
But I'd say definitely, once you're 18, find the right school. Harley Race has a good school. UPW was a great place here in California. I don't know what's going on with that place now, but
Is that the one that's out? What city is that in?
that is over in, it was in El Segundo, and then it's relocated south, closer to San Diego, more as of late. But I mean, there's that place, and then also in Houston, Texas, there's Booker T's school, who is very well-renowned wrestler. Booker T's been a former WCW champion, former WWE champion, and I mean, I'm sure he's got a hell of an operation running down there. So.
Great. I appreciate you coming down and spending the time. And,
awesome interview.
I'm sure our viewers are definitely going to like it, and hopefully we'll see you a lot more on TV with the 2009 coming up.
Cool.
And see you taking the belt back.
Oh yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Should I promote the
definitely. Tell us about that.
Yeah, just as far as for contacting for appearances, shows, anything regarding appearances, shows, anything like that. My email is masterpiece83@gmail.com, and you can also reach me at MySpace under Chris Mordetsky Official.
Okay.
You can write that down. Maybe you can put it up on whatever.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is with Instructional Fitness, we're going to be having a lot of different areas, but we'll actually have something on there with information how the people can contact you.
Okay.
So if they go to instructionalfitness.com, we'll have it on there, how they can get a hold of you, and for any appearances or anything like that. And you're always welcome to come back for workout or anything else. We can let the fans see how you're doing and what's going on with you. Okay?
Why'd you have to wear sleeveless too?
Well,
I
figured if I wore sleeveless, then you'll look that much bigger. So
I know you're big.
No. Thanks for coming back, Chris.
Thanks,
I appreciate it. Good luck.
Thanks.